All right, welcome everybody to this absolutely scintillating video on the history of Phillips, Wisconsin. Actually, not even the history of Phillips, Wisconsin, the history of one area of Phillips, Wisconsin. A question came up on a Facebook group, Price County Historical Past and Present, whatever it is, about road names, any stories about road names. And I decided to make this video because I typed it up and it didn't do a good job, but I thought it'd actually be useful for the person who ends up buying the house that I grew up in and some of these other houses out in this area. Where we are is this is Minnow Lake. We're west on County Highway F. Here's the golf course. This is Golf Course Road. We're going to talk about this area out here. I'm going to zoom in a little more and get our bearings. So this is Golf Course Road. And start out with it used to be called, I think it was North Long Lake Road. It might have been Long Lake Road. And again, I'm not 100% sure on any of this, but we're going to make guesses. Anyway, I think it was North Long Lake Road. Somewhere in the mid 70s or early 80s, it got renamed to Golf Course Road just because that's what everybody called it. This little patch of swamp, this is a big old swamp actually. This is called Evans Bay. And Evans used to be the company that operated the mill downtown Phillips, Georgia Pacific, the Lionite, that hardboard mill. They operated the mill. And they had bought this and they were logging it off, and this is called, so they called this Evans Bay. Now you see the open water around here. I don't know if this water was, it was dredged, we know that for sure, but I don't know if it was dredged just to give people access to the lake, or if it was dredged because they were, rolling logs down the hill and chucking them in there and floating them downtown. I don't know. I think they were probably used in logging trucks, but you never know. So this is probably dredged for the houses. Anyway, up here we have North Evans Bay Road. This comes off of County Highway F. And this used to go all the way through to Harvest Lane. And then down here, this loop is called West Evans Bay Road. And it didn't used to be a loop. This section wasn't there. It used to start right up here and come down this way to this area. And then over here we have South Minnow Lake Road. And this is a dead end right now. It didn't used to be a dead end. There's a little tiny channel that connects Evans Bay to Long Lake. And Evans Bay, it is a swamp, right? You won't be able, you can bring a boat with a motor in there, but by the time you get right here, you'll be wrapped up in seaweed. It is weedy as heck. So it's a canoe kind of area or a rowboat kind of area. You can get a motor in there maybe in the fall or spring or something like that. Anyway, a couple of things about this. There's still the bridge pilings. You can still see them in that channel where South Minnow Lake Road came through. And I don't know if it ended here, if that was the end of South Minnow Lake Road, or if this is a continuation of South Minnow Lake Road, or if West Evans Bay used to go around like this. But that was the layout, is you had South Minnow Lake Road coming here, connecting up somehow with West Evans Bay Road here. And a couple of things that are of interest is that the time frame for when this changed. So this house was built, I think, in 1970. We moved up here in 71. It might have been built in 69. And this road was just put in that time frame. So that gives you some starting point of reference of what I'm going to talk about here. So if you've ever seen a gravel road that doesn't get maintained, what happens is the grass grows up in the center, but you still got the gravel tracks. And then eventually the grass grows up through the tracks, and what you get is grass, but you can still easily see the rocks, underneath the grass. When we moved in my earliest memory in like 70, would have been 73, 74, that was the state of this road here with grass growing up through rocks, and then also South Minnow Lake Road here. And also whatever went down to the lake here. I don't know if that was West Evans Bay Road. These trees are along where West Evans Bay Road used to be. So you can see it kind of curved in like this, went down like this, and then curved. You got to zoom in here. This tree is strategically off just a little bit because I think the road went down through here. And if we zoom in just a little bit, there's a house right here, and they have a driveway. that used to be, I believe, West Evans Bay Road. And the reason I believe that is one of my very early memories was fishing with my grandpa. So we walked down the road, walked to the lake, and we weren't trespassing, mind you. um, or if we were trespassing kind of on the road that had just been sold off. And there's a little dock there, and when you're a little kid, you're fishing, you're really just chucking rocks into the water, which is what I was doing. So the rocks were still available for a little kid to grab and chuck into the water right here. And likewise, I remember this road. There was a family that had this, and their son was just a little older than us. There was a line of trees here. The pine trees were about 20 years old by that time, so it had been logged off. They had been planted and grown up 20 years easily, maybe even more, maybe even 25 years. But that road was still there. And when they put gas in this area, natural gas, the gas line actually runs right along that road, crosses over that channel, and comes up this way. So I remember the rock roads there. And then also a thing of interest, this is the house I grew up in. And so if you park there, you can see the power line connects to the house, and it goes to a power pole right there. And then that power pole connects to another power pole right here. And that power pole is on the east side of where West Evans Bay Road is. And the reason I remember that is, there's not much going on out here. It's a little kid. The phone company came out and upgraded service and drove along this road with their truck. And they put in phone service here, or upgraded the phone service here. And then they continued on right over here to where the road ended, and probably did the phone service here. And then as we grew up a little bit, and we're able to kind of walk around the neighborhood more. There's a difference between being 4 and 8. We had some friends over here, and we took the road and took the remnants of this road over to their house. We would actually ride our bikes on that road, and there was only, at that time, there were only a couple places where you had to get off and push because the weeds were getting too high. So that gives you an age of that. That would have been about 76, 77. And that's the state of those roads. So the reason I know this and why it matters, why I'm making this video a little bit, because it's a little interesting, but this is the house I grew up in, and there's a deed to that house, and if you've ever read a deed, it gives you kind of a treasure hunt direction to get to a starting point, and from that starting point, then they describe the property. So the deed to this house actually starts way over here. So it gives you a bearing of almost 90 degrees. It's like 88 degrees or something like that, or 93 east, and you go a certain number of feet. And then here's the interesting thing, and why I'm making the video really. You go a certain number of feet, and it says to the edge of the road. And then you're going to, and when they're saying the edge of the road, they're talking about this road, not this road, like the north edge or the south edge. They're talking about the edge of the road here. And then you go a bearing and a certain bearing from that point down to the edge of this bay, the edge of Evans Bay. There's a little creek that runs down through there and it dumps in. It's just on that side of that creek. And then you go back along that line a certain number of feet, and then here's where, again, it references the road. It gives you a bearing and a number of feet, and it says along the edge of the road. And so if you had no history of this area and you're looking at that deed, you're wondering, what in the world are they talking about? There's no road, but there is. And so you go a bearing and a distance, a certain number of feet, along the edge of the road, and then it'll say to the service road. The service road is, there used to be an unnamed road right here between West Evans Bay Road and the actual Bay of Evans Bay. And obviously that was for logging and doing some things, because there was actually a logging road right along the edge here too when they were doing that. So when they made this subdivision, what they did is they gave everybody in the subdivision deeded access to Evans Bay via this service road. And so the deed for this includes access and use of that service road that no longer exists. So It comes to the edge of that service road and says the property border runs then to Evans Bay, but includes use of the service road that runs along that, which is no longer there. And then from there you go along the course of Evans Bay back along the line. And so it's a very convoluted deed. And I'm pretty sure that like this house, this house, this house, probably this house, and this house, and this house all have deeds that also reference roads that are no longer there. This house for sure references the service road that's no longer there. I'm guessing that this house and this house reference Minnow Lake Road, the road that's no longer there. Um, so that's kind of a history of that area. And if you have one of those houses and you have one of those deeds, that's why your deed is very, very, very confusing because the roads don't exist anymore. So I hope that was fun and interesting, at least for the people who own those houses. And if you're out fishing and you want to see a little bit of history, you can go down to this area right here. You can see this little house, see where their little trees are down there. That's about right where the road came in. You can go in here. You can see the old bridge pilings. You see this little, it kind of juts out here. There's a curve out. It's right there is where the bridge pilings are. So you can see that. Hope that was informative. Have fun.